Thank you.
All right. I would like to open Monday, August 28, 2023, 4 p.m., a council work session. We'll go ahead and open this up. Everybody is covered for, present. And we will need to approve the agenda, which is requested, which is that one item that is listed there, which is a discussion regarding the draft policy guidance in event safety street closure policy. So I will need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to clarify one thing, Mayor Taylor. This is a work session, correct?
I think, yeah, I think that's what I said.
I just want to make sure for other people, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Right, this requires a roll call vote. Mr. Gilman?
Aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye. Johnson.
All right, we are now ready for business.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of the town council members for coming early this afternoon to talk about this policy. We began work on this about a year and a half ago, myself and the other members of the Safety and Events Committee. And I'm pleased to announce that we have several of those in the audience here today. Would you mind just raising your hand if you're on the Safety and Events Committee? This is a great group of people. I really enjoy working with them. We meet once a month. And our primary role is to review the street closure requests that you get prior to you receiving the information in your town council packets. The other good thing about the Safety and Events Committee is, we are there, we are available. If there's other things that you think we need to look at on behalf of the town, we are happy to serve in any capacity that helps the town. With that being said, the Safety and Events Committee did make their final review of the document in June. And on June the 12th, as you recall, I brought the first draft of this policy to town council, and you all gave a quick review of that. There were a few comments from that meeting that I tried to reflect in this most recent draft that you have before you today. These should have been sent to you in your packets. So the whole goal for this hour that we are together is to discuss this policy. And if you have any edits, if you have any questions, now would be a great time for us to talk about that. And we can spend as much time on this topic as we need. So if you're not feeling comfortable with it this evening, all means we can continue the conversation. So with that being said, Mayor Taylor, I am just going to open the floor to the other members of town council to see if there's any questions or concerns that they have about the policy, and we'll just tackle it in that way. Is that okay?
It is. Do you want to go like page by page, and then each person could say, or do you?
If you all prefer that, would you prefer that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'll do some renumbering where the cover page will not be page 1. So it's now going to be your page 2, which is really the start of the policy there.
So does anybody have anything that's in question on that particular page? We need to move forward and discuss.
My cover page is 3, and I guess the starting page it would be 4. Is that correct?
So this is your cover page, right? And then your first page, it will say at the top, policy guidance on event safety.
So I think there's
Which is
two different
page
sets of
4.
page numbers. The page number on the right is for the packet.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it would have been
Gotcha.
page 4 of the entire packet, but this is 1 of 11.
Okay,
2 of
got you.
11. There you go.
Got you.
So when you say 1, 2, you're
Gotcha.
talking of 11, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. So it would be the page number for the policy itself, not for the overall packet. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
So the first page is pretty straightforward. It just essentially talks about our jurisdiction, which is the town of Wytheville. Obviously, events that are held on private property would not be part of our jurisdiction unless they substantially increase traffic or have an impact on our public streets or sidewalks. The administrator is the town manager or his or her designee, and I'm happy to serve in that role as needed. The event organizer is the person who would be filling out the application. So this would be the person that fills out the application online. They will also be the person that signs the application saying that they are responsible for the event. That's a good thing because, you'll see throughout the entire policy that, we are asking the event organizers to try to make sure that they are communicating with the individuals that participate in their events, and they're sort of responsible for everything that happens during that time period. We talk a little bit about the Safety and Events Committee at the bottom of the page, and typically these are individuals that are affiliated with the events. So, for example, the Public Works Director typically is highly involved, downtown Wytheville, our public safety folks from fire and police. And we also invite tourism and museums just to make sure that they are also looped into events that are happening in town, and in particular to try to prevent conflicts and things of that nature for other events.
So on item number 6, it says that at the discretion of the town council, one council member may be appointed by the mayor to serve on the Safety and Events Committee. The handbook that was given to me for the Virginia mayors and council members states that it is the role of council to appoint members of various boards and committees.
I think that they might have been going off of that evening when you asked me to appoint you to that committee, so that's what happened.
I understand that, but I'm just
I'm
going
not
off
sure
of what
what,
she has here is that the mayor appoints people to the committee, but in the handbook, it says that it's council that appoints members to various boards and committees. So that's the handbook that I was given.
I think that could be clarified, either to be whichever way you all want it.
Okay, well, I think we need to go by the information that has been given to us.
Okay, that's an easy change. If the rest of the council's okay with that, I'm happy to make that change.
well, I'm fine with that. It's just I would like to refresh and read it because it's going to affect every other committee. And the ones that I came into traditionally, some are just appointed by the mayor. But that sounds like it's not. So I think that maybe we can bring that up, that we can look into it, and I'm glad to bring it up.
Would you like a copy?
Sure.
If I may ask Sherry a question.
Sure.
Sherry, in our rules of procedure for the town council, does it talk about how committees are appointed?
If you look under role of council at the last bullet, it says appointing members of various boards, committees, and commissions.
And I think historically you all do for almost everything. The only thing I can think of that typically has been the mayor is your committees, which is budget and finance and public works. I think, and I'm not positive, that that's referring to external committee appointments like housing authority, things like that you all make those appointments as a group. But like as far as your internal committees, historically that has been the mayor's role here, but that may, if we're wrong, it's wrong.
We can certainly look into that. And
Yeah, we might want to look into that.
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything else on that page that brings anybody concern?
I think we might want to look at number 4, and I think it just should be brought to council as well.
Okay, so you would like it to say the administrator of this policy shall be the town council?
Should be.
What that's going to mean is if there is a disagreement from an applicant, then they're going to basically be grieving that with you all versus me. But if you want that responsibility, I'll be happy to give it to you.
Well, no, that's fine. That take
Yeah.
a little load off of you. That'd be fine, sir.
So we're saying that administration has no role in that?
Effectively.
I'm not so sure I agree with that. I would prefer to leave it as it's written, but if you want to talk about it,
I think, just to be clear, this is not saying that we will administratively approve the street closures. You all will still have, it'd be the same process as before. It's just, as far as administering this policy, that would fall to Elaine and I, essentially. But every application will ultimately land in here with you all for approval. And I think it's going to say that in the later pages. It's just basically,
That's just one of my concerns I had.
And second, when you say, because I need to understand what you want them to do, when you say one of your concerns, the concern is that you don't want administration to be a part of it. As he said, it goes from them to us. So it's not just administration.
Well, just my one concern is the situation that we had just a couple of months ago. With different dates and everything like that. That's just one of my concerns. I definitely want to make sure that they do make it to council.
Sure, are there any that go?
So essentially, all applications for a street closure will come to town council. And the item number 4 does not change that. It just means that if there's anything about this policy that needs to be interpreted or shared with the public, or sort of receiving applications, all that sort of administration tasks, it just says that's sort of your point of contact, not. So if you have an event organizer who's a citizen and they need to talk to somebody on staff about the policy or how to apply, that's what I think of as the administrator.
Okay, so they would come and talk to Mr. Freeman?
Or his appointed person.
In all likelihood, it's going to be Elaine, just because she's shepherded this group for the last year and a half.
And done a great job at it,
Yes,
too.
Thank you.
Well, how about, can we just take it out then, since it's sort of unclear?
Sure, we can remove number 4.
Thank you.
Is everybody okay with that?
I prefer to leave it in. That's my opinion.
Do we want to just have a quick poll vote of everybody? It's, I think I definitely want this to feel like everybody's getting their
Sure.
viewpoint.
I just don't understand what taking it out is going to accomplish. Because then there's still going to be, well, who is working on these requests and that's going to come down to town staff and administration, and then it comes over to council. So if we take it out, then there's no guidance.
Holly, would you be okay if I replace number 4 with something of the sort of the point of contact for this policy is the assistant town manager? So it's more of just a point of contact?
Well, if we're going to change it to that, then it needs to be that. It doesn't need to be sort of vague,
Okay.
If Mr. Freeman, that's one thing, but then,
Would you be okay with that, Kathy, if I put the point of contact for the policy as the assistant town manager?
Yep. Didn't you just say a street closure had to come to us first? Is that what
No,
I heard
I'm just
you?
saying instead of 4 being titled administrator, we just put a point of contact, and that's the only thing that would change there, is that people know exactly who to contact if they need to know about the.
Yep.
Everybody okay
Make
with
him
that?
point of contact.
Okay, you okay with that?
and you're going to put the town manager, the assistant town manager. And then just for instance, for clarification, if you're not here, will there be someone else to follow up with, or will they just have to wait till you get back?
I could just put or his or her interim.
Okay, that's
Contact.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else on page 2 that anybody has concerns about?
All good thoughts.
Okay, moving on to page 3. Page 3 is essentially where we outline the application process. I tried to do this as detailed as I could. It talks about the role of the Safety and Events Committee, and it talks about the role of the committee in recommending either approval or disapproval to the town council. And then it clearly states that the town council has the final decision regarding the application. At this time, we do not have any application fees for street closures, but obviously you all reserve that right. The way that we anticipate this happening is each year as you review the master fee and rate schedule, that's when if you should decide that you want to assign fees to street closures, you can do so at your pleasure at that time. We also heard what you said in June about the submittal timeframes, and we took out the 60-day requirement, and we just put that they will be processed as they are received. I did just note a friendly reminder in here that the Safety and Events Committee typically only meets once a month. The Town Council only meets twice a month. So it's just a gentle reminder that we will process them as they are received, but that's sort of the reality of when they can be heard. Does anybody have any comments or concerns about page 3?
The administrator reserves the right to modify the application process as needed. Does that need to come before council before it is modified? I think that it needs to come before council before any modifications are made. So
Okay.
that we are aware of the modifications that have been made. So it needs to come to us prior to being modified. Also, the Safety and Event Committee, in these instances, the event organizers will be notified that they are required to attend this meeting and the date and time of the meeting. So are you going to give them, how many days' notice are you going to provide them with?
Where are you on the page?
You
I can't
are
follow
on
you. Where are you on the page?
the 4th bullet down.
Okay.
So essentially, what I typically do, which is how I would recommend that we proceed, but when I receive the application through the portal, I will just send them an email that says, "Hi, we received your application. The Safety and Events Committee is meeting on our next available date, and if they've had the event for several years prior, we make it optional for them to attend because a lot of people work during the day." If it's a larger event like Chautauqua, we do ask that they do try to come, even though they've had them in the past, because there are so many, factors to that week-long festival. If it's a first-time event, like it's something that's never happened before in town, we do ask that they attend those meetings so that they can meet our staff. Our staff can learn about their event, or I shouldn't say staff, our Safety Events Committee can learn about the event. They can ask questions. There's more of a dialogue that typically happens. So essentially, I try to send those out as soon as I get the applications. That's typically what I do.
So if we could come up with giving them a notice due to the fact that people do work, we need to come up with either a 5-day notice, 7-day notice, just to give people time. If they may have to ask off from their job. So they need to have enough notice to be able to ask off or things of that nature.
Okay. I'm happy to include that.
What time are the meetings normally?
10 a.m.
I don't want to interrupt everybody, but everybody's looking. Can you give the very first sentence on that page. The committee may be tasked with other public safety, health, and wellness responsibilities. Can you give me at least an example of that? I mean,
Sure. So one of the things that we are required to do as part of our insurance, our Versa insurance, is to have something called a safety committee. That is an example. It's more for just like insurance reasons. So that could be something that the safety and events committee may be tasked with. Let's say Brian had a concern about a particular area of the town, like let's say a troubling intersection or something like that. He may come to the safety and events committee and use that as a forum to say, because typically in that room, we have all the people that you would be having a conversation with. We've got police, we've got fire, we've got public works. John Woods, the planning director, can be there. So you sort of already have everybody convened. So that makes it convenient. In the past, John Woods has used that as an opportunity to come talk to us about ideas for the highway safety improvement grant funds. And so we've used that committee to talk about that. So really it can be used for anything that the town council or the town manager feels like they just need a forum to have a conversation.
And when you talked about the fees, that we're down at 8 again. The town council reserves the right to waive fees or assign fees, but we don't have any fees to. So you said there's a specific date that we talk about setting fees.
Yeah, so as you remember this spring, we presented to town council something called the master fee and rate schedule. I think Brian and I have agreed that each year we think it would be a great idea for council to review those early in the budget process. So probably in like January of this coming year, in preparation for next July 1's budget, we will be asking our department heads and you and whoever to make any recommendations to the fee schedule. And as you remember, there is a placeholder for street closure fees on there. Right now, the amount is $0. But in the future, if you all decide you want to charge $25 for an application fee or $50 or whatever you want, you would do that during that period of time when we're looking at the master fee schedule.
I mean, I get that. It's just sort of like a long way away before we can see if we're going to put any fees on. So, there you go.
Is there anything else on page 3 that anybody has any concerns about?
I have one more question. If for some reason someone did want to attend the meeting, and if they asked to like rearrange the time once in a blue moon, would you all work with them on that?
Certainly.
Okay. And then the other thing is like the early submittal of or encouraged, can that be either highlighted or bold?
Sure.
It's right at the bottom. Okay, thank you. And thank you for removing the time limit.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to page 4.
I want to jump in with a question on 11. It says, middle of the paragraph, should there be 2 conflicting or separate events with consideration for the same date, the town council reserves the right to choose which event should take precedence. It's not that I mind doing that. I just think there should be something first come, first served type thing. And then I don't know, what does everybody think?
I agree with you on that. I think it should
All right,
be.
write this down now. So write this down. You agree?
Well, I'll just put that in there. I agree with that too. I think that's a great idea, Mayor Taylor.
I think so too. First come, first serve.
Then if there's an issue or something, then that can be, then council can have their.
Well, can we define first come, first served? You might get the applications on separate dates, but they'd be heard on the same night, on the same.
Can you repeat that?
It's possible, say, you got an application today and then another one on Friday, and these might be heard by the council a month from now, just depending on, is first come, first served, first applicant?
I mean, that's sort of what I was
Puts their
thinking.
application in first. If they put their application in on Friday, then they would be the first to serve.
So it
Am
might
I
be.
not understanding you right?
No, I get it. I think you are understanding me. I'm just, there could be a little nuance occasionally.
What if January 1st, someone comes in and puts in something for downtown on the week that Chautauqua always is?
Mhm.
That's where I could see, as a lawyer, see a problem. If you don't want a hard and fast rule on that with your established events, right? You're going to want, I would assume you would want Chautauqua or some other established event perhaps to have precedence.
Right.
So you may want to leave a little wiggle room, or consider leaving a little wiggle room for situations like that.
Right.
Maybe there are other circumstances too. That's the one that comes to
Verbiage
mind.
in here, something about the town, downtown Wytheville town. And
Right.
It's the same one you're on, number 11.
Yeah.
Can someone, let Mr. Castle know what exactly sort of the issue we had? You're familiar with, okay. So how would that normally fall?
Well, I think what you're trying to do is to fix that. So I think what I could do, I would put preference will be given on a first in, whatever, first application, but leave yourself some discretion, if necessary on that. I wouldn't make it a hard and fast rule because of, you need to have some discretion in case someone unforeseen something happens and then you're just out because you set a policy that doesn't give you any. So that's just my suggestion to you as your attorney. You can certainly have that would be the ordinary course of things, would be first come, first serve, but I don't think you want it in every circumstance. I can envision circumstances where that might be problematic. A race to the application process, right?
Yeah, like I'll give you a bad analogy, but like a spike fence or something, you know what I mean? Like, or someone, you could theoretically have someone that objects entirely to Chautauqua, for example, and says, haha, got him. I'm going to get my event in here. And so I think that's unlikely, but it's 2023. Yeah.
Well, and I think that sort of, it sort of felt like that sort of happened a little bit. Like it was just like it wasn't good. It was sort of sad.
Well, I think you can certainly express the council's strong preference that first come, first serve. But like I said, I just recommend that you leave a little bit of wiggle room for yourself so that you don't get bound in. 100%.
Why don't we just kind of put some time into the wording of that after this?
Certainly.
Because we're going to run out of time. And then that way, if any council members come up with some verbiage, they can mail it to you and you kind of take the time on that.
Okay.
Is that reasonable?
I'm happy to work on that. Thank you.
Have anything else on that page?
Has timing of the event and the consideration of any other scheduled events and or other reasons related to timing and scheduling of the event, would that fall under the guidelines of the Chautauqua? Would that not?
Potentially. I mean, the list of factors are written very broadly to give you all the latitude to be able to say yay or nay. For me, that was a major goal of doing this policy, was to try to provide some parameters that should you ever, I don't know that you have ever denied any, but should you ever have to deny one, I wanted to make sure that we had variables there that you could point to and say, we are going to deny this because we know that Main Street is going to be closed for repairs. We just don't know what the future is going to bring. So you may have some very valid reason from a timing perspective.
Okay, that is one of my concerns, the timing of the event and consideration of any other scheduled event. So if someone puts in, just like the situation that we previously had, I don't want people to be denied because they came and they put in their application. They went as far as to compromise part of their event so that both events could take place, which I thought was great on their part. And they were willing to work together so both events could have revenue coming in with our businesses, and the other event they would be able to have their celebration, and people could choose, to go to both events if they wanted to. So that right there, I just needed some clarity on. And quite naturally, if the town is having an event, we don't want to have anything interfere with that.
Okay. Is there anything else on page 4?
If you can give me a little bit more in-depth detail on the fourth bullet, where it says overall impact to businesses.
Essentially, again, this is just some very broad variables that if you ever need to point at any particular thing, you have that tool in your toolbox. I could see at some point somebody applying this just hypothetical for a street closure somewhere where you have a lot of what you feel could be residences or businesses that would be negatively impacted. And like, for example, let's say somebody in some neighborhood hears a rumor that there's going to be a rock concert in their neighborhood. And they're going to close the streets in the neighborhood from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And you know what? That event's happening. You're not going to get in or out for a whole day. You have to be either at your house or somewhere else. So let's say in that hypothetical event, you all decided, you know what? We're not going to allow the street closure because it's going to create a negative impact to those who live on that street. That was the intent of that, was to just sort of point out that that is a variable that you would consider.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. 9 to 5.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to make it. If you go down to prior experience, is someone going to be able to help them? That doesn't list anybody, but I just didn't know. Would that be you as well, Ms. Holton?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a whole committee of folks that really help event organizers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
5.
The, if applicable, pre-screening by Downtown Wytheville Inc. and comments received by Downtown Wytheville Incorporated. I do not want to put them in an uncompromising position, so I ask that that be removed, and that needs to be done through council. So that way, no one's put in a position to be questioned. It falls back on council. That should be our job.
Does anybody have an issue with removing the bullet for pre-screening?
I'd like to ask Todd, what is the importance of the pre-screening?
Just to help them understand logistics and power situations and how to safely set up an event to where it's pedestrian friendly and thinking about traffic situations. Because not that we've perfected it, but we feel like we've done enough events to know where things need to be laid out. So, for example, a vendor's not setting up where there's power not situated. So that's the thing to help them understand what their application can look like prior to them submitting it. So that's what I see as the pre-screen.
Okay, so if you want to leave that there, then you need to be a little bit more specific.
I
About
agree
what
with
the
you, Candace. I think we need to leave it, but be a little bit more specific.
Yes, about what the
Please.
a pre-screening consists of,
Right.
so that they also understand.
Right,
I have no, if you can leave it as long as you are specific.
right.
Okay.
It's basically technical support, I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay.
If I don't get calls at the end of the event saying, this power's not on, weather's not.
Okay, so if you just be a little bit more specific there so that they understand.
Does it need also to have anything that says just in the downtown Wytheville footprint? Because there could be a street closure somewhere else that would not involve downtown Wytheville.
Sure.
Makes sense.
I'm just saying, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
we can easily add that.
You have some page 5? No, there's always been that.
Okay, so ready to go to page 6?
You have anything on page 6?
Hold on, wait a minute before we go to page 6. I do have a question. The town reserves the
You back
right.
on 5?
Huh?
You back on 5?
Yeah, I'm back to 5, yes. The town reserves the right to revoke a street closure or traffic control permit for any justified reason, and the event shall not be allowed to occur. So when you say town here, does that mean the town manager, or is that town council?
I intentionally didn't put specific nomenclature there. Look at our attorney a little bit here for this. I'm happy to put either the town manager or the town council or both if you want. You never know in the world what could happen.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that I wrote something in here that, if you thought that something was going to be unsafe,
Yes,
if you felt that somebody falsified materials on their application and then later find out through social media or something that the real intent is otherwise, or if there's something beyond our control that should happen in a regional or a national or a global perspective, I just wanted to make sure that we would not be liable for having to call something off. I mean, obviously we wouldn't take that lightly, but would you prefer a type of language here, or do you want that section removed?
we need to know what's going on and be made a part of any decisions on that. We need to know what's going on.
Okay.
The only challenge with that, Ms. Johnson, I think would be is if something is happening, we get some new information and we're 2 days from the event or something. There's no council meeting. It's going to be very difficult for us to sort of we can't convene a meeting for you all to make a decision on it. That's a tough one. I think it needs to be clear, but I do think that there are some instances where things could happen very quickly, rapidly. I mean,
We still need to be notified. You have our cell phone numbers, you have our home numbers.
I understand.
We need
No,
to be notified.
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm saying is if the decision rests solely with you all and, something is happening.
I said with the town and town council. So if something needs to happen, something needs to take place, we need to be notified and made aware of the situation.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I'm not
happy
arguing
to
that.
just change that to
Yeah.
the town manager and the town council. How's that?
What do you all think over there? Mayor?
Okay with town manager and town.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm getting at is if my police chief or my fire chief call me and they say, hang on, this is not what they said they were going to do. This is a disaster waiting to happen. We need to be able to shut that down very quickly is all I'm getting at. If something is getting out of hand, it's not what was portrayed in the application, and our top public safety folks are saying, this is really bad. We need to have the ability to revoke that. And that's all I'm getting at. It's just,
Once again, all I ask is that we be notified.
Sure.
So I think she's saying we don't need to be in the decision-making process of it, just notify us
certainly,
during or after or whatever you guys
certainly.
have to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Basic, yes. If, in an event, if it is a safety issue, it is if it's gonna put, our constituents in any kind of harm in any way, shape, form, or fashion, then of course, take care of the problem. But at the same time, we need to be included on what's going on.
Certainly.
So it should be town council and town.
Can easily make that change. Is there anything else on page 5? So moving on to page 6. Essentially on page 6, we talk a little bit about our relationship to our Parks and Recreation Department and how they manage the facilities in the park. So that we're just pointing that out to our event organizers. We also talk about other federal, local, and state laws and how the event organizer is responsible for ensuring that they meet those. And then at the bottom of the page, we begin to cover the insurance requirements of the event organizer.
I'd like to maybe say something. Is if the new event, I just want to make sure we're clear when it says, if a new event, like I said, I just am a little bit concerned about, I don't want to run into the issue that we had before and go into that lengthy problem that we had. I just want to make sure, there's nothing there. And also for 15, I just want to double check and make sure, is that all the rooms down at where like the VFW is as well?
And the American Legion.
So essentially, I think what I'm trying to convey with this item number 15 is that, a lot of times when people have a parade, let's say, and they want to end up at Withers Field and do another celebration using that field.
Okay.
What I'm trying to communicate here is that, you're going to go through our application process for your parade street closure, but if you wanted to reserve Withers Park, you've got to call the Parks and Recreation Department and reserve Withers Park, because when you apply for the event, the street closure, you're not applying for Withers Park. So it would be the same with Elizabeth Brown or any of the other parks.
And that's just like for the park space.
Correct. So yeah, the Parks and Recreation Department has a computer software program where they take reservations for use of the space, and that's why it needs to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else on page 6? Moving to page 7. At the top of the page, we outlined a requirement for alcohol sales. We move on to talk about a traditional method that we have used here at the town for alcohol security. Essentially, and Brian Bard is here if we have any questions about that, but essentially off-duty town of Wytheville police officers sign up to work when they're not normally needed for the police department, and they can be off-duty sort of like alcohol security, where they just make sure that if somebody's selling alcohol, that they do so in a safe manner and that people are behaving themselves. It's worked very well, from what I understand, and so that's what we just, again, the policy is really to communicate to the event organizers, so that's the whole purpose there. At the bottom of the page, we do start to talk about the requirement for event vendors to have their necessary licenses and pay their taxes. So it's pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions or comments about page 7, we can talk about anything on the page.
I appreciate the lengthy response to the email that you sent me regarding that question,
Sure.
the license and taxes. And this goes back maybe 4 or 5 years, and Todd and Brian can help with this, but I thought the state had went to, as long as they were licensed in the state, they did not need another license to come in here, but they did have to pay their food fees. But I mean, is that, am I dreaming that? Remember that? So if they're licensed in the state, anywhere in the state, like Roanoke, then they didn't have to get another state license.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know it well enough to
The
quote it.
details, okay. So maybe we need to just, and Elaine gave me this wonderful page of all that, but I'm still, it's not clear in my mind from right here. So maybe we can kind of look into what, because we're not gonna, we can't double, have them get a license here if they already have a license, if that's what the state law is. I don't know
Okay.
anymore.
Certainly, and I agree, we do need some clarification on what the expectation is of vendors, so I'm happy to potentially work with our town attorney and Mr. Mike Stevens to try to lay that out a little bit clearer for individuals, what is the expectation. And that may even trickle into us thinking a little bit about our town code and the language that we have in our town code. So that, it may end up being another whole topic of conversation, but it is somewhat related in that we want our events to be successful, and so we want our vendors to know what the requirements are on it. So we'll bring something back for you all to review as it relates to item 20.
And that was going to be one of my questions as well, the yearly peddler's license. I know at one time it used to be astronomical, and then I think it was changed, and I just didn't know if you had the amount of that by chance.
I did not write it into the policy because I wasn't sure
No, that's
if it was
fine.
going to change,
That's fine.
but yes, it is very high.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. And one other question it says the town sponsor events such as Christmas and 4th of July. And then there will be apparently like a security for the alcohol as well. Will that police officer, will they also get $50, or is that, I didn't read that maybe correctly. I just want to make sure that they got paid as well.
Brian, would you mind taking that one?
If it's a town-sponsored event, and we have to call in extra officers, they are paid a time and a half.
Okay.
Time rate.
Okay.
If it's a private entity that has to have an officer, they pay the $50 an hour rate.
Good. I just want to make sure they got paid. So,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Is there anything else on page 7? Page 8, one thing that happened since the last time I brought this to you all in June was that we had the privilege of meeting with the Mount Rogers, Virginia Department of Health Food Safety Inspector, and she came and spoke with our group and outlined some of those requirements for temporary food establishments. So I went ahead and wrote them in here so that individuals could be prepared for that. At the bottom of the page, we start to talk a little bit about fire safety. This is really just in there in the event somebody's unsafe. Chris would have the jurisdiction to correct that or ask for a correction on that. At the bottom of the page, we talk about vendor sales, and we just put that they need to have a developed registration system for vendors. What that means is that the event organizer would have a complete list of everybody that's going to be there, their contact information, and that way if we need to contact somebody or reach somebody or know who is there, I thought that would be a good tool in our toolbox.
I think the only thing a question it's not really a question, but the first paragraph, this packet must be submitted at least 10 days prior to the event. I'm just wondering if we want to say 10 working days or just leave it at 10.
I believe when we met with the VDH, the lady from VDH, she said it was 10 days, correct? Not business days.
Emmett, something I did have, you did touch on that a little bit, the fire inspections may be required, then who would actually do that? Chief Slimp?
Well, fine.
Well,
You
okay.
and Mr. Hodge.
Well, I have to certify this.
Thank you.
We'll move on to page 9, is that correct? Give us 5 minutes at the end to raise the next meeting.
You will notice towards the end of this document, we really try to outline specific recommendations for various things that could happen during an event. The tents over 900 square feet, that is a building code requirement. That's why we put that in there. Stages, this is something that Todd was he provided a lot of information about this topic, just based on some previous events that he was involved with, where you could have stages in improper locations. You can have stages that are sort of not in the right locations, and so that the sound and the experience isn't very good. Item 24, we're just talking about the safety of generators and power cords. Some of the things that I believe some event organizers have experienced in the past with, poor location of power cords, generators that were too loud or noisy, that sort of thing. Item 25, we really want the event organizers to do the majority of their cleanup, because we really don't have the staff to clean up for every single event. I mean, obviously we don't mind helping with some capacity of that, but 25 just says pretty much if you're going to have an event, you really need to have the ability to clean it up after. 26, this came from some experience in the past where people used to throw candy from floats, and you would have children running out to the floats, and that's a very dire situation when you have children that are around moving vehicles for a parade. So that's why we thought number 26 was important to include in
Because
here.
that still happens, so it's very important.
I have a question. Number 22, so it says must obtain a building permit. Is that gonna be like a building permit, like if you just put up a permanent structure?
For 900 square feet. So, but
That's a state law.
Oh, it's, okay.
And 900 square feet is pretty big. That's like 90 by 100. So that's going to be big, right?
And I do have a question on that, so I just didn't know, like, on the weekends, will there be somebody inspecting that? Because usually I know, like, for permits, I think we usually have a building inspector go out.
So typically where we would catch these things is in the safety and events committee meetings, and that's where we would get the event organizer to coordinate with the building department on when they're going to set up the tent, when it's going to get inspected, that sort of thing.
I didn't know, like, on a weekend, like, who would do that if somebody would come in. And on number 25, would we charge a fee if the town does have to assist in the trash, or are we just going to do that as a courtesy?
And typically we do not charge fees, but again, that could be something when you review the master fee schedule. If you want to include that, we'll be happy to accommodate that.
And one more thing, I'm sorry. On 26, can candy be handed out by walkers or just no candy at all whatsoever? You know, sometimes people go down, they'll hand out marketing material or candy.
Yes, so we do not have a restriction on people walking and handing out candy. It's just from the moving vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Is there anything else on page 9? I'm going to go through page 10 pretty quick. All right, open flames, amplified sounds, sanitary systems and porta-johns, paints, markings, other substances, day of event safety. And then the last item on the page, it gives you the ability to require a surety bond This was a great suggestion from Chris Lentz, who said that he'd had experience in other localities where like a really, really big rock festival was coming to town that had a lot of potential for impact. And if you ever had something very large that ever wanted to come to the town of Wytheville, I would suggest that you may want to recommend or require a surety so that if there's any damage, you can use that surety to pay for any damage that may happen. So that's why that was included as item number 32.
In 20 seconds, what does it cost?
It doesn't cost us anything.
I mean, what does it cost for somebody to get one?
It'd be the insurance company would basically ask you
It depends
lots
on
and
the
lots of
situation.
questions and figure out what risk they're willing to take at what cost.
Okay, on number 28, I didn't know if we could have 10 p.m. and on weekends 11.
What page was that, Ms. Atkins?
Page 10 here.
I got you.
A bit,
Yeah.
bit 12 at the bottom. Sorry. It's number 28. It just says that, no noise after 10, and I didn't know, with different things. If for some reason somebody goes over a little bit past 11, I'd hate for somebody to get a call, say, hey, they're running 10 minutes after, I just didn't know if that could read 11 on weekends.
Does that correlate with our
Noise ordinance.
ordinance?
The noise ordinance is 10, correct?
Yes.
It is 10 to 7, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I believe.
I mean,
We
that's
can
fine.
double check that.
I mean, no, sir, that's fine. I just didn't want, like I said, something to go a little bit past, but that's fine if you just want to leave it.
Is there anything else on page 10?
And we can all take these home and shoot Elaine an email if you have another question about something as they're revising things. That'd be great. I think we'd like a 3-minute recess here. So we are going to close the work session, and we have 3 minutes to reconvene.